Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to talk about Drapion VSTAR. Although, honestly, right, if we're being honest, it's not even really Drapion VSTAR. It's Drapion V. Now, I did a video a couple hours ago, a huge update on Lost Origin. We saw a bunch of cards. We saw Kyurem VMAX, which is a pretty big deal. We saw that Porygon 2, which I am super hyped about, and a whole bunch of other stuff. However, I think it's fair to say that just casually dropping Drapion into that video would have been doing it a little bit of a disservice. It's so unbelievably relevant, ladies and gentlemen. It is unbelievably relevant. Not to put too fine a point on it, but Drapion basically makes Mew not viable. And not in a hyperbolic way. Look, we've said this before, okay? Let's be honest about this. We have said that Mew is gone before. And the reason we said that was because of Mighty Ina, which incidentally had an amazing character rare, so let's use that image instead. And that Mighty Ina was nuts. If your opponent has any VMAX in play, then for 0 energy, it does 160 damage plus 50 to itself, and of course that is a magic number to one-hit KO a Mew VMAX. It's a stage 1 Pokemon, it's awkward, you can't just play a 1-1 line because your opponent will gust up and KO the basic. You had to really work, and sure there are stage 1 decks that can work this in and they don't lose to Mew, but apparently that wasn't blatant enough. So in comes Drapion. Now I should mention our translations here come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, one of our favourites, and someone who spent over an hour translating cards this morning so that we can all know what they do. You know I'm a big Antoine Boulet fan, and quite frankly, you should be as well. So what we've got here with Drapion is firstly really nice artwork. But we've got 210 HP, which is 10 away from the max we see. A retreat cost of 2, which is, it's fine, it's not terrible. Air Balloon we know is going to last until at least the new year, so we can use Air Balloon to get out the active if we're worried. And a weakness of fighting, which is honestly not ideal, because ironically, this could be countered by Zapdos. More on that in a moment. Galarian Zapdos, I should say. But we've got an ability that reads, this Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless energy less for each of your opponent's Single Strike, Rapid Strike, and Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. So against any single Rapid or Fusion Strike deck, the attack cost here is coming down. Okay, cool. Here's the thing though. The attack for 4 energy does 190 plus 60 to one of your Pokemon. And okay, fine, the 60 to one of your Pokemon it's not ideal, let's be honest. But it's perfectly manageable. For a long time, Giratina saw a huge amount of play because it could take key KOs, and it did 40 damage to one of your bench Pokemon, and it wasn't the end of the world. There's usually somewhere you can stash that 60 damage. There are all kinds of Pokemon that hit harder because you've got damage counters on and all of that, which you might be able to take advantage of. There's bound to be a Tauros somewhere that can use this. There's always a Tauros somewhere that can use stuff like this. My point is, I don't care about that 60 damage. Because what I should be doing here, for potentially literally no energy, is getting a one-hit KO on a Mew VMAX. Which is absolutely absurd. Like crazy, genuinely dumb absurd. Because the 190, it's miles over. We're not talking like Mighty Ina, where you just get a KO. We're talking about miles over. We're not even close here. So what we've got is a Pokemon that's KOing Mew, and the attack is reduced by 1 colorless energy for each Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. But that's on your opponent's side of the board. But that's where it gets interesting. Because let's take something like Zapdos. Zapdos is a very obvious counter to Arceus. But it's not perfect. Because you see, first of all, Arceus has Dunsparce. And Dunsparce will take away your weakness. And there's all kinds of issues with Dunsparce, right? It can be prized. You're rarely going to be playing more than one because it's not worth the bench space. So that means that you then have to recover it if it gets KO'd and all of that stuff. So it's not a perfect counter. Let's not argue that it is. But at least with Dunsparce, you've got a chance against Zapdos. And even then, Zapdos is 1 energy plus 3 colorless. And it's reduced by 1 for each Pokemon V in play. So you can always just try and play fewer Pokemon V, force your opponent to have specifically a fighting energy and one other, and it gets awkward. Now don't get me wrong, against an unprepared Arceus player, a Galarian Zapdos V can absolutely run rampant, no argument here, but I'm saying that there are ways around it. I don't see a way around it here. I don't see how a Mew player can look at a Drapion and really do anything. Because first of all, there's nothing that takes weakness away from your psychic Pokemon like the basic Dunsparce does for Arceus and other colourless Pokemon. There's nothing like that here. And secondly, what are you going to do? Just not play Pokemon? Like, the whole way that the Mew deck works, the whole reason it's so gosh darn good is because of Genesect. Genesect, of its Fusion Strike system ability, lets you draw until you've got a number of cards in hand equal to your Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. And Genesect is the engine. So not only do you have to play Genesect in order to actually be able to draw enough cards to, function, but if you're playing 4 Pokemon, not 6, then Genesect's drawing until you've got 4 cards in hand, not until you've got 6. You are consciously, deliberately neutering your own deck here. And that's not a good thing. And that's one of the ways around it. So if we've not got a good way to take away our weakness, and we can't just not play our Fusion Strike Pokemon, then that basically means that Drapion turns into a 0 energy attack on a basic Pokemon that one-hit KOs Mew VMAX for free prizes. And sure, you can play around with stuff like Meloetta, but we all know Meloetta doesn't last the whole game. 70 damage for each Fusion Strike energy you've got attached to all of your Pokemon. Well, as soon as a couple leave play, Meloetta just doesn't become particularly good. Sure, I suppose you can try and rework it to attack with Genesect, but if the best version of Mew was attacking with Genesect, they would be attacking with Genesect right now. This is about the most perfect counter we've seen. It's a basic Pokemon. You don't even need any energy, but if you do need energy, it's colorless, and it gets an easy one-hit KO because of weakness. This is about as obvious a counter as you're ever going... Nah, that's a lie. Okay, fine. The Heatmor that specifically names Durant as the Pokemon it did extra damage to, that was the most explicit counter we'd ever seen. Fine, I'll give you that one. And that was specifically for the Durant in Next Destinies, which is one of my most hated cards ever, so yay! Although the irony is nobody played Heatmor, because by the time Heatmor came out in the same set, we had Darkrai, and Darkrai was actually the reason that Durant became unplayable. And Heatmor wasn't even needed. Funny that. Point is, this is just a super duper obvious counter. It is basically like Pokemon went, right, Mew's a bit good, let's give him Mightyena. Wait, no one's playing Mightyena? Oh. Let's make it even more obvious. And of course, what is one of the obvious counters to this? Path to the Peak, to turn off the ability. Path to the Peak is the card you play to beat Mew, because it turns off Genesect's ability. Now, this one's a little bit brazen, ladies and gentlemen. This one is a little bit brazen. For what it's worth, 190 damage when you add a Choice Bout does 220, which is the magic number to get a one-hit KO on Pokemon V. So this is actually going to be a very nice attacker against any Single Strike or Rapid Strike deck as well. The only real Fusion Strike deck around is Mew. This is actually a decent card in a meta game where Single and Rapid Strike Pokemon become good, and it is absolutely worth bearing in mind, but let's be clear, this is an anti-Mew card, and it's really quite blatant. Now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even mentioned the VSTAR yet. Maybe we should mention the VSTAR. Goes up to 270 HP, which is 10 away from the max that we tend to see. Free energy, 250, minus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon for free energy. Well, the good news is it's a darkness Pokemon, so you got Dark Patch to accelerate energy. And if you can keep this Pokemon clean, this is phenomenal. Because 250 KOs Pokemon V, with a choice bout, you go up to 280, which is the magic number to KO Pokemon VSTAR. The issue with Drapion VSTAR is your opponent doesn't ever actually need to KO it. If they do like 100 damage, then all of a sudden, like, Drapion's doing 150 for free energy, which is just not particularly good. And sure, you can start playing around with stuff like Cheryl or Hyper Potion, which will heal you at the expense of some of your energy, and then you can reattach it with stuff like Dark Patch, but you're going to start running out of Dark Patch. It's fine, but I don't think Drapion VSTAR's great. I think it's great if you can keep it clean, but keeping it clean is going to be a big old problem. But we do have the ability Star Hazard. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and paralyzed. Put 3 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. Instant paralysis and poison. And it's quite weak as far as V-Star powers go, because seriously, right, if your opponent's got a switch, then all this actually does is 3 damage counters to your opponent's active, which is clearly not good. However, I'm thinking if you're already playing Drapion V, if you're playing Drapion V to make sure nobody can play Mew against you, why not play a V-Star? And then there might be one point in the game where that paralysis and buying an extra turn is going to be huge, where you don't think your opponent's got the switch, etc. At which point you drop Drapion V-Star, do the paralysis and poison, although the poison is not going to be huge. Tiny bit of extra damage, I suppose. And then you rock. Drapion V-Star is fine. I like the attack, but you've got to keep it clean or it gets really bad really quickly. I like the V-Star power. It's not that powerful, but there are going to be plenty of games where that, instant paralysis just for the one turn, because it is a once per game thing, is going to be big. But really here, it's all about Drapion V. Mew is one of the best decks in the game right now. Go and look at any top cut of any recent tournament, you'll find it in there. And sure, there are other decks around, like Palkia, which are potentially jumping it and becoming a bit more popular, but honestly, the only way Mew survives is if nobody plays Drapion. But then again, if no one's playing Mew, everyone's going to stop playing Drapion, then in comes Mew again! It's going to be fun finding out. This is a 5 WotC card. It's not just Mew, but, it's going to be good against any single and rapid strike deck. The V-Star's got a lot of potential, but really, if you've got any deck and you're even remotely worried about Mew VMAX, hey, here's a basic Pokemon for no energy that's your answer. Seems a bit good, honestly. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWotC, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.